Hey, welcome back to Bandwagon fans. This is Jeff. Tonight, I'll be reviewing the 2020 dramatic thriller, Let Him Go. But first, I just want to talk about the state of the movie industry in the midst of a pandemic and the movie-going experience, in general. Hollywood studios and the theater industry are among the hardest hit businesses in the world during the COVID-19 pandemic, which all of you are already well aware of. Theaters reopened in Tucson a few months ago, just in time for New Mutants, but from what I've seen, they can't continue like this. I've seen a few movies like New Mutants, Tenet, and the re-release of Empire Strikes Back, and theaters for all of them were basically empty. On a couple of nights, there were more employees than customers at my favorite Cinemark. Studios want to release any movies right now because there's no audience, and theaters can't grow an audience because there's no new movies coming out. I would be going maybe once or twice a week, but who knows what's even going to be there. The last three movies I did see, I never even saw a trailer for, didn't know anything about them. I just checked my Cinemark app and saw there was a new title there, went to go see it. The irony is that movie theaters are about the safest place to be right now, but only because no one is going. So as soon as word gets out that they are safe and people start going back, they may not be safe anymore. Video on demand isn't a viable solution. The experience of a major blockbuster isn't the same at home as it is in a theater, and people like me are not going to spend $30 to see Mulan. And other more on the flip side, there are families and other vulnerable people out there that will not be going to a theater anytime soon. I think the solution is obvious, and for anyone that may hear this, understand that there are two different audiences now: people that will go to a theater and people that want video on demand. These audiences aren't competing with each other. Releasing a movie in the theater isn't going to cut into a VOD sale and vice versa, because each is selling to those different audiences who otherwise will not purchase that movie. So until COVID is past us, studios and theaters need to work together and release movies in both places at once. No matter what agreements are in place now, this would be the best for everyone. Theaters need something to show, so they'd have to be willing to compete with VOD. They really don't have a choice. And studios need to pursue every revenue stream they can. Yeah, Tenet eventually eked out about $350 million. How much more could it have made if people had a choice to watch it at home? Bottom line, studios need to get movies back in the theater, or there may not be any theaters left. And yeah, theaters will eventually recover, but the more of them that close down or file bankruptcy, the longer the recovery will take. So that went a little longer than I intended. There is supposed to be a movie review here, and I'm really pleased to say that Let Him Go was worth the trip to the theater. This movie really surprised me. I thought it was going to be more action thriller, like Taken for the geriatric set, but the movie this most reminds me of is Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood's 1992 classic. Let Him Go stars Kevin Costner and Diane Lane as George and Margaret Blackledge, a pair of ranchers in Montana in the late 1950s or early 60s. After their son dies in an accident and their daughter-in-law, Lorna, played by Kaylee Carter, remarries, Margaret witnesses Lorna's new husband be violent to her and her son. Soon after, Lorna, her son, and the husband disappear abruptly. Spurred by Margaret's determination to be reunited with her grandson, she and George embark on a journey through the American North to track the family down. The film is a slow build and at times borders on melodrama, but it delivers on many fronts, and it is a marvelous little movie. In some ways, it feels like a throwback 90s thriller, but is elevated high above its predecessors. First off, the acting is so real and believable, and I marveled at the casting choices made here that would have been impossible in the 90s. Had this movie been made 25 years ago, it would have starred Clint Eastwood, already well into his 60s, and either Ashley Judd or Rene Russo, both in their 30s at the time. Casting Lane and Costner and presenting them at their appropriate age really grounded the action in the movie. They moved and talked their age, and that heightened the tension. There's been a move the last couple of years to make movies for aging baby boomers, and this is a much better example than, say, Book Club was. The other star of the movie is the landscape. The high plains of Montana and the Dakotas, with the snow-covered peaks in the background, is rugged and crunchy and absolutely beautiful. And the cinematography really shows the splendor of the land. I mentioned earlier that the movie was a slow build, and there were times early on when I was like, all right, get on with it already. But the payoff was worth the wait. When the tension ramped up, I was on the edge of my seat. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the action was so believable. There was no over-the-top superheroics, just two determined old people overcoming some pretty intense obstacles. Overall, 8 out of 10 for Let Him Go, a throwback to both westerns and 90s thrillers that is among the best of both. This was a really pleasant surprise. It's the kind of movie I could see watching half a dozen times over the next 20 years, something you can sit down and watch from any point and not get sick of. So, hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please consider hitting that like button. You can also subscribe to get those notifications. We're doing a live stream every Friday night where we talk about. Right now, we're doing Mandalorian, but we'll be doing WandaVision. Jason and Cecil Smith get together to talk about wrestling, and then we do a game night. So check out that live stream every Friday night, and come back for more content here. Get on the bandwagon.